Hello, beautiful alchemist. Welcome to Reiki Radio. I am your host, Yolanda, and we are continuing the conversations with beautiful contributors to the book Reiki Heart and Soul Many Stories, One Bright Light, which is a compilation and anthology that was put together by Mama Ifetayo White. So, we are going to speak today to Mama Mut Ra-t, and she is a dedicated advocate for women's wellness and empowerment with a rich background in holistic self care and community support. She was raised in a nurturing environment surrounded by strong women. You are going to hear all about her journey and how she deepened her understanding through rites of passage with Queen Afua and ancient practices with the Shrine of Khepera. As a doula, she witnessed firsthand the profound impact of self care and communal support on women's health, and she was inspired by the book called The Red Tent. And now, through her work and supported by other womb keepers, she has written a book and focuses on helping women heal through pink, red, and purple tints. Her mission is to transform homes into moon lodges where women and girls are supported by their families as womb keepers, fostering a culture of open communication and holistic care. She is committed to spreading this practice globally through her writings, consultations, and community facilitation. You will hear some incredible insights through her story. I really, really appreciated all that she did share, but I think this message is important for all people. Uh, when we hear about womb work and we hear about, I guess, even turning our homes into moon lodges, there's an assumption that this work is focused only to women who are experiencing cycles or going through menopause. But the truth is, and you'll learn from her, that this work is really for all people and why it's important that all of us understand just all of this work. It's so incredible. So I hope you enjoy it. Again, her name is Mama Mut Ra-t, and you can find out more about her work at cyclebreakingwombkeepers.com. The link is down in the show description, and I will see you on the other side. Okay, everyone, we are here today with Mama Mut Ra-t, and I am so thankful that we get to have this conversation. Another beautiful contributor to the book that was put together, this anthology by Mama Ifetayo, Reiki Heart and Soul, Many Stories, One Bright Light. So thank you for taking time to have the conversation today.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Yes. Well, I was telling you before we started recording how beautiful your work is, especially reading your story in the book, and how I wish I had known of your work, especially as a younger woman. And we're going to get all into that. But before we do, your story in the book, you named it The Journey of a Generational Cycle Breaker. And I thought that was such a beautiful title. And you start off by acknowledging your parents and the fact that they still live within you. So I wanted to ask you about how early life may have shaped where you are now, the work that you're doing now, and how you recognize yourself as being a cycle breaker.
Mm. Oh, when I think about, I'm trying to see how far I want to go back. When I think about, my life in New Orleans with my parents, being the middle child of six, we all have separate stories that we experience. And the one that I experienced with my parents was that, my father was a fisherman. He used to love to take us fishing, all six of us, on the weekends, and the preparation alone was so intense for me, to pack up all the different items that he needed. But my father was like a hands-on type of father. He didn't mind. He was like all into it with all of us telling us to be quiet, get this, get that, and giving orders. And I enjoyed that. And he was a pianist, and he used to sit me on his lap and play the piano, and just, be involved like that. And my mother she was a mom. She was always preparing the food, and doing our hair. And I remember her little fingers used to cramp up from braiding our hair, but she would do it anyway. And, just being present and nurturing us in the ways that she could. And then I remember the days when she was sick, and I would see the ambulance. I was, petite and short. I would see the ambulance coming, with the lights and everything, and taking her out of the house. And but the days in New Orleans was so beautiful. I felt so free, being the age of 4, 5, 6. I remember running outside barefooted, loving the outside. I guess that's probably why I can't do the winters now, because I didn't need a lot of clothes on. I don't remember wearing a coat in New Orleans. And it was always that energy of the elements that really kept us with so much joy and laughter no matter what. So that stayed with me as my life changed when my mother passed away at 8.
Mm.
My grandmother came from Brooklyn to my mother's funeral, and she changed my life. She came, my grandmother, my mother's side, she came at my mother's funeral, and she took the 3 girls and left the boys with my father. And this, and the only picture I have of myself as a child is at my mother's funeral. They
Wow.
took me outside, and I had on a slip, and I was just standing in the sun. I can see the glow on my face, not knowing what was happening next.
Yeah.
And then, coming to Brooklyn from New Orleans and living in an apartment. And my grandmother's way of life was totally different, my grandmother and my 2 aunts on Brooklyn Avenue in Brooklyn. And the lifestyle was so different. My grandmother was into the church. She went to church often. We went to church all during the week, on the weekends, and we had a lot of restrictions and do's and don'ts. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
You know, what is this? So I cried many times, and that not having any closure about what was going on, not being asked how I felt about things. I grew up with a lot of anger,
Yeah.
angry at God, angry at my parents for not living, just a lot of questions, unanswered grief. And that marinated in my life growing up, and then kept getting a call. I think I was like 15 or 16 when we got a call that my father was dead and buried,
Wow.
because I didn't have no contact with my father from the time I left at my mother's funeral. So that was another thing. Another thing I was like, oh my God, just don't get no better than this. Why? So another thing that really drove that questioning within myself. And I had to work through all of that,
Right.
you know. But um being that my grandmother kept us in the church, which I didn't like. I didn't like the restriction and stuff like that. I learned, after a while, I had said to my grandmother, don't baptize me again. I don't need it, And, I'm like, don't make me stay on my knees. I don't need it. And they was like, spiritual Baptist. And it was like, oh God, they had to tarry me. And I was very rebellious. So they had to get the devil out of me and all of this stuff. And I felt like I had, my relationship with God was not to fear God,
Right.
and something in me just knew I didn't need all of that. I was good. But, my grandmother saw it as a rebellion. But to make a long story short, I learned so much with um how um I always say my life is spirit guided, spirit driven, because everything that I went through in my life and all the questioning and things like that, it opened doors for me to get some outlet,
Right.
of peace, an outlet of wanting to know God for myself, and I always felt like a free spirit. I didn't need all of that. I was good. I had a relationship with God. I had a relationship with God of my understanding that I needed to find comfort. And through that, I attracted people that was not family that always poured into me, women. My friends' parents would always, sit in I call them my bonus parents. They would nurture me in ways that my grandmother couldn't,
Right.
and most of my growing up years has always been somebody outside the family that nurtured me in ways that I needed it. So I always got what I needed. And then Hmm. The next step was when my grandmother had um moved us from Brooklyn to back down south my last year of high school, 12th grade, because we was put out of the church because my sister um because of my sister and her relationship with the pastor's son, we was put out of the church. My grandmother, out of shame, moved us from Brooklyn back to Georgia in my
Wow.
12th year of high school. So that was another thing I had to work through. So
Wow.
I decided to, you know, to give my grandmother the blessings and work that last year and move back to Brooklyn, and gave my grandmother all the blessings for all she did for me, but I would no longer be able to, stay with her. I wanted to move forward with my life. So that was a really big step for myself. And so I graduated from high school. My grandmother did not come. I made my dress. My grandmother she taught us how to sew. She made everything we wore.
Yeah.
Being in the church, she made all the clothing that we wore. We had to wear long skirts, long sleeve shirts, only gray, black, and common colors like that, nothing bright. And so that was the first step of me taking back my freedom. It's like me leaving myself in my grandmother's house and going back to Brooklyn to live with my aunt. So you see how my life just was, really guided and gave me the strength to find a way to be more independent and take my power back and live my life the way I needed to.
Mama,
And
I have to say to you, there's so much with what you just shared. One of the things that stands out so loudly is the whole idea, people say God is within us.
yeah,
And like, the recognition of that is really the teaching of all of the great work is the realization of the
yes,
divine as you are. Your story highlights that. Also, I love how it highlights the truth of it takes a village, really, truly. But it also makes me so curious because listening to you talk about growing up in New Orleans and your childhood and how both of your parents were so present. And there's like such a glow about you, even when you talk about how present and hands on they both were in their own ways. And in the book, you also talk about, though, how they both then became inspiration for how you turn to different aspects of healing. So, could you tell us a little bit about how your mother and what she went through, how that highlighted for you the need for womb work and self care, and then your father
yes,
and the tie into relationships?
yes. My mother, first of all, once I started really um reaching out and asking for help. Back in the day when the self-help came out, I don't know what year was that, in the 80s when self-help came out, that rung a bell in my head. Self-help, I can help myself. I didn't need my parents or my grandparents or anybody, right? So I'm a Taurus, Aquarius. So I've always been like self-taught with
Mhm.
books and all of these things, right? And I attracted the best teachers. And my spirit called out for help when I was going through the dark night of the soul in my 30s, like most people. I thought I was like 32, Mom, this is how it feels to die. I really felt like my world was crashing because of all the things that was going on. And I heard a voice that said to me that I had to become a happier, healthier parent.
Wow.
And I looked around, I was like, I don't see anybody. So I started writing down happy, healthy parent. And I made that my email back in the day. And that really drew to me all the things that I needed to learn. My cry was like, please allow me to find out what I need to help heal myself and stay healthy because I felt like I was about to die,
Yeah.
emotionally, spiritually, and all of that. And that a download of happy, healthy parent was a journey for me to enter. And more people came into my life. More people came into my life. And one of the books that I studied was Louise Hayes. And she talks about the body and the emotions that causes the disease in the body. And when I look up kidney, it really identified what my grandmother was going through. She was away from her side of the family with my father's side of the family and having baby after baby, and each child, weaken her body system,
Mm.
her kidneys. And kidneys represent isolation. Um it was, I can't remember all the details, but this kidneys told you that her body was crying out emotionally for loneliness, shame.
Oh, wow.
She had issues with my her mother, which I didn't know I had a grandmother till she came for my mother's funeral. So you can tell there was a disconnect between that. And later on, I found out why,
Hmm.
why it was a disconnect. And I see that as mother and daughter relationships after having three sons. I had a daughter. So my mother's story, I was like, Mom, after a while, I got tired of being angry and I started talking to her picture before the movie Coco came out. And I was like, Ma, you're going to know what I'm going through. I'm going to tell you everything. And in doing so, I got this connection with her that we would talk about. I would talk out loud about what I was going through, and I could feel the comfort, you know? So I learned through my mom that I had to honor my steps as a mother, take care of my womb.
Hmm.
I attracted Queen Afua, and I did rites of passage with Queen Afua. I attracted Yala Van Sant. I did tapping the power within and empowerment with her. And she really, I still hold on to the affirmations of words. You see, I'm always posting things about the word, and she taught me. She had this diagram where watch your thinking, because your thinking be becomes your character and all of that, and becomes just destiny.
Yeah.
And I really dived into that, and Queen of Four taught me that my womb was sacred. I could finally talk about my womb as being sacred. I'm like, what? My body was sacred, even my vagina. I was like, what? And she was like, take a mirror and look down there. Boy, we went in. I was like, what? And it really brought me joy in knowing that my body was sacred, you know? And then I started, using the tools that she gave me, and it reminded me of my great grandmother ways. My great grandmother, she was like a medicine woman. She had all the natural remedies, and she loved her bathroom and her baths as tools. And she had the aromatherapy with the essential oils and the enema bag in her bathroom. I'm like, Grandma, I feel like now I'm living my grandmother's ways, my great grandmother. So all of that came to a part to me, and I love that I was able to heal myself of fibroids.
Yeah.
I had a bad, bad miscarriage. I had fibroids that grew and pushed the fetus out. And that was the miscarriage was so oh my God. I can't even think about, when I think about it, I could feel all the things that I went through with
Yeah.
that miscarriage. And so I learned how to, really connect with my wound and heal my wound of fibroids, and really know how to, every month on my cycle time, I used to take off every 2 days,
Yeah.
and and I really dive into the whole womb wellness connection with myself.
This is what I want to ask you about. I want to make sure we really get into this because I told you again at the beginning, man, I wish I knew you when I was younger. But Mama Moot, so just this journey was, your mother, she had these health issues and passed when you were so young. You were only 8 years old.
Yeah.
And then fast forward, you as a young woman, early 30s, you go through a divorce. At that point, you had four children. You had three boys and a girl,
Yeah.
and you're going through your dark night of the soul. And it's so
Hmm.
interesting how things come back around. So
Yes.
you hearing this voice tell you, be a happy, healthy parent, and you start diving into all of this, trying to understand even what your mom
Hmm.
went through all these years later, since 8 years
Yeah.
old to like now you're early 30s, right? And it's
Yes.
wild to hear how, they say like the pain will often like crack us open, and so like it
Yes.
just came to a head, and then all of a sudden you start searching and seeking, and now
Yes.
you're studying with these amazing women, You mentioned the movie Coco. That's the one that has the like the Mexican tradition of Day of the
Yes, and
Dead.
teaching you how to
Talk
honor
to the
your
ancestors.
ancestors. Yes,
Yes, yes.
I was doing that.
Yeah, but so all of this, again, think of all these years later after losing both of your parents, and now you're on this healing journey, recognizing your body is sacred and having this realization that your grandmother was practicing in some ways these things you are now learning from other women.
Yes,
That's
yes,
incredible. So this
yes.
womb work, could you told us about, obviously, I mean, I can't imagine, the miscarriage and what that does to women emotionally, mentally, all these different
Mhm.
things. And then to come back around to now honoring the womb space, where a lot of people end up having so much story and upset at
Yeah.
their bodies because of what has gone through. So, could you
Mhm.
talk to us about this importance of the womb and the womb work that really highlighted for you? Because with everything you went through, I mean, it's really interesting that this was the piece that
Yes, to stay with me.
yes. Mm-hmm.
Hmm. Oh, it's so important, and even though I used to be a doula, right? After I quit my job. I got laid off in 2000, and they asked, who wanted to be laid off or who wants to move on, and I raised both hands. I was ready to get out of there. And after I got laid off and released the job of in corporate America, I dived into what I really wanted to do. And one thing I wanted to do was stay with supporting women with healing. So I became a doula.
Mm-hmm.
And back then the word had just came out again. And people with my friend, she started the doula business in her home. And I used to babysit for her and cook for her. And I used to babysit for her because she used to make healthy meals, and I used to we exchange meals and stuff like that. But when she was writing up the program for the doula, she kept adding things on, and I was like, wait a minute, this word doula means what? It means supporting women. In my head, I was like, I already know how to support women. I remember my grandmother and my two aunts, they were like Backstreet midwives. They did everything. Support women, please. They used to nurture women. After through they used to be what you call abortion doulas,
Mm-hmm.
death doulas, whatever. My aunts and my grandmother, they was hands on in the community. They did everything.
Right.
When it comes down to community service, I'm like, I already know how to support women. Why do I need to have a certificate? So I advertise myself as being a doula. And even during the certification, I had to go to certain people's house to get credits and stuff like that. I would go to people houses outside of our race, and they would give me a list of things to do so they can take care of themselves and I can hold it down for them. When I go to our people house, they was like, no, I got it.
Mm-hmm.
I got it. It's okay. They didn't know how to receive help,
Yeah.
you know? And I was like, wow. And even when I was a doula, it's a lot of the women, they you know they will forget when it came time. We would do the birthing plan and stuff like that, but when the pain came, it went out the window, and they would listen to the doctors and wind up having a C-section. And I was like, oh my God. And then calling for when they in labor, it would take days. And I remember the last delivery, I was like, I can't do this sleeping. I need sleep.
Mm-hmm.
I had to call for backup and things like that. So I was like, no, this is not gonna work. Then I came across this book. A sister friend of mine, she was doing a red tents, and I came across the book, The Red Tent, and they talked about women leading together and coming in community and sharing their medicine and their stories and helping other women to heal. And I was like, wow, we're not going to come together and bleed together. That's not going to happen. But we can turn our home into a moon lodge. That's key. If we can help women and I started thinking about how, when I was in corporate America, how I took off the first 2 days of my cycle and how I felt. My sons were older. I taught them how to cook and clean and everything. So I said, listen, mommy's on her cycle. You're going to take over and take care of the house and serve me.
Yeah.
And it was such a benefit for me to do that because every time my cycles was less and less, I was stronger. Even when I went back to work, they was like, "Oh, you called in sick. Look at you glowing." I was like, "Yes, that's my self-care days." But I was like, "That's it. If I can help women how to take care of themselves on their cycle time every month, they can give birth to anything." I had two clients, one that helped me to ask me to work with them from the time they said they want to get pregnant, they got married, and we worked through things that they had to unpack up until the time they gave birth, and then they had a home birth. It was so beautiful. They were prepared.
Yeah.
So this thing that I'm teaching now, that turn your home to a moon lodge, teaching women how to live by the seasons. Every season we go through every season, all four seasons every month.
Mm.
If they only pay attention to the fall and the winter seasons, their springs and their summer weeks is going to be more of their lifestyle than fall and winter. And this applies to every woman, whether they're bleeding or on menopause. So that's what that was the thing that helped me to understand how we can my mother's story can be a different story for a lot of women if they take care of themselves every month on their cycle time.
So it sounds like you're saying this is really interesting. And I wanted to ask you about this too, because you mentioned in the book creating the moon lodge even in your own house and with your grandchildren and
Yes,
your daughter-in-laws now and everything, but
yes,
also the red, the pink, the purple, and the blue tent. So we're going to get to that too. But with what you're saying in terms of our cycles and going through every season, every month, there's a couple of things coming to mind. One, with what you teach, it sounds like at a foundational level, it helps women learn how to be in better relationship with ourselves, like how
yes,
to
first.
acknowledge ourselves, be in connection to ourselves. And instead of maybe fighting and being angry at the bodies, learning how to take care of our bodies while they're going through this. So fascinating. So really, it sounds like there is no off time in terms of us caring for ourselves and
Right.
not
It
only
shouldn't be.
caring when something's off.
Yes.
Could you talk about what that how that helps us heal on so many levels, this self-connection and awareness?
We are so disconnected from ourselves, the society and the world, and even my parents, me and my girlfriend of over 60 years, because she was one of my best friends since I came to New York at 10 years old. And we talked about how our parents they were so busy in survival mode that they didn't have time to talk about self-care.
Mm,
That's the only thing they didn't give us. They gave us so many other things. Like I said, my aunt and her two sisters, we we had everything in that package. We couldn't get away with nothing. They made our clothes, they did the shopping, they was about everything, involved with everything but self-care.
mm,
Even my grandmother, I was able to really hold space and hear her wounded story and tell her, "You are forgiven, my grandma. You don't have to hide behind the church. God forgave you. Forgive yourself." I was able to teach her how to pamper. I remember the first time I put her feet into one of those foot tubs to give her some relaxation with the foot tub. She thought
yeah.
I was going to electrocute her. She was
Oh,
afraid because she never felt that comfort before.
yeah.
I was like, "Grandma, I would never hurt you." And I would nurture and massage her feet and everything like that. And she would go straight to sleep. She had dementia, right? And my sister, we would take turns with grandma, and they would send her over to me. And then I would send them a picture of grandma sleeping. They was like, "How did you get grandma to sleep?" She had gathered a lot of tools of self-care and I was able to share with her. So we have to somehow find the time to sit with somebody that can help us to remember how to reconnect with ourselves. Because we have learned to give it all away. And then when our wounds start speaking to us loudly and screaming at us during our cycle times, we be answering it back. And oh no, I'm gonna stop you up with painkillers and all of this and keeping going instead of allowing those symptoms to be our call for more self-love for ourselves.
Yeah.
Pain means pay attention inward now. I
Mm,
got that from Yala Van and I love the way she breaks words down. And when we say, okay, pain means pay attention inward now, what do this pain is asking me to do? Do I need rest? Do I need to be hydrated? Do I need some natural foods? And if we pay attention to the week before our cycle, which is our fall week, right? A lot of women have PMS and anxiety and all of this stuff, and some of them have it real, real bad. And so it's like mentally, they are not able to ground themselves.
mm,
When I work with a woman with that type of issue, and they focus on the fall week and give themselves some rest, give themselves some meditation, give themselves some ease up on their diet with heavy foods and give themselves some juicing and some lots of water foods and soups and things like that, warm things. They find that every month it gets better.
wow.
Within 3 months they have a total different cycle,
Yeah.
because the fall time is telling us, bringing up all these things that we need to address. And sometimes it may be in our relationships, it may be in our relationship with ourselves or our partners or our jobs, whatever. That week, it's bringing those things up.
Mm,
And if we only journal them down and ask ourselves, okay, what I need to release, you know, and what I need to replace it with for my own comfort. When you do that within 3 months, every time my clients have a different testimony. They're like, that's all I had to do
wow.
was give myself stop, pause, and give myself some attention and try to answer those things as best you can. If you keep doing this every month for years, you see that all of your challenges are not challenges anymore. You be looking forward to them. Okay, you come in, what I need to do, and be true to yourself.
Hmm.
And when you be true to yourself and use your voice, and you see how this makes it so easier. So when we want to create a baby or a business or a new life, it becomes easier.
Yeah.
We face our fears. We're not so bogged down with so many thoughts to be able to capture the thoughts and say, okay, I know why I'm feeling this. This is coming up for me. I need to address it. Maybe I don't have time to address it. I used to have this jar. And when in my 4 week, when things used to come up, it was called a Dear God jar. I would write them down. I'll put them in a God jar. And I would say, God, please hold that for me. Get it out my mind. Hold that for me and you work it out.
Mm,
So I can get it out my mind. So my mind became clearer. Put
mm,
it somewhere. So little steps like that will help us to answer our wound instead of not answering it.
yes.
Because when you don't answer her, she will drag you. She will scream at you. When you see clotting and hemorrhaging, she's screaming at you. She's not happy.
Yeah.
I seen it with my own body. I went from hemorrhaging to, you know, I was so upset when my cycle changed into menopause. I was like, oh no, I wanted it to stay because I got so used to routine and beauty and ease.
Oh, wow.
During my
Yeah.
cycle time, I was like, don't go away from me, please. And my friends was like, oh, you're gonna get hot flashes, you're gonna get these things. I never got none of that because my 30s, my 40s got better, my 50s got better. So it just eased right into that.
Yeah.
And then menopause was so, menopause means what? More time to pause. More time to pause. That's the life of the thriving.
Okay, wait, I gotta pause right there because there's a couple of things. So one, I really, really want to highlight so much of what you're saying because it's really powerful and I think it's so important for us to hear. And you talking about this, it's bringing to mind how powerful perspective is. And sometimes I think we don't realize how damaging our stories and just like
Yeah.
the habitual like nature of dreading our cycles coming or the perspective we have like when we're PMSing there's already this preconceived I think of even how society kind of throws
Yeah.
all these labels on us of like
Mm-hmm.
angry and this and you're crazy and
Yes.
but then to stop and say, like, no, I'm not crazy, I'm not angry, I'm not upset. This is my time, like you say,
Right.
to
Mm-hmm.
pause and look within and see, what does my body need, what's going on. I need to slow down. My pain is telling me what I need to nourish myself. That perspective alone, just that switch, is
Mm-hmm.
so powerful. I can't I hope that the people listening are really, really taking this in. And I say people because you also talk about, your sons. And you even said, like, when,
Yeah.
on your first couple of days, they would, take over while you were taking care of yourself. And before we get into the menopause and pausing more, because I've said on the podcast I'm in perimenopause, and you saying I'm like, hurry up and be over. So it's interesting to hear you
Oh,
say, like, no, I don't want it to be over. But I want to talk about the importance of uh, men being in on this conversation,
oh, so
because so
important. So
many women are
important.
like embarrassed and keep it
Yeah.
separate, don't want to talk to their sons or partners about their cycles and what they're going through. So could you talk about this, the importance in what you've
Oh man, I
infused
had
with
the
your sons?
blessing of having three sons, and their fathers just couldn't be fathers, and but they blessed me with the status of leaving me alone and allowing me to do that. And I prayed and I asked God, I'm like, oh my God, I have three sons. Brought three sons through my wounds. I don't know what they need. I need to attract men that will help my sons be men, my
Hmm.
boys be men.
Yeah.
And they came.
Mm.
The men in the community came forth and nurtured my oldest son. And him in turn, he grabbed his two brothers and they really build together. They talk about everything together. And they still like the three musketeers right
Yeah.
now. But they are the best um, men for me. They never gave me no problem. And they've never been on the streets and they just listened to the things that I was able to offer them as their mother. And I'm telling you, I had it so good with three sons first. 'Cause then I went back and I asked for the girl. That's another chapter of my book. And did I get the girl? She sent me through all of these spiritual rooms, and I'm learning now. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm in trouble now. It's a big story having a girl after having three boys. Anyway, I'm not trying to stay on focus. But my sons, I'm telling you, when it came to me, when I came around and they went through, especially my first son, he went through everything. You know, you first go through everything. He went through everything with me.
Hmm.
He had the wild, crazy Geraldine, the angry Geraldine, you know, he saw me in so many phases of my life. And when I was going through my rites of passage, he was already gone.
Mm.
He was already out of the house with his life work and stuff like that. And so he didn't see the transformation. The other two saw the transformation. My second son, he said, "Ma, you're the only person that I know that changed their whole entire life." But he also saw the crazy Geraldine. I used to smoke and party, all of that. I did it all,
Yeah.
And then he saw the return of self, Geraldine.
Yeah.
He saw all the spiritual wounds I went in, and I call it like my next book. I talk about each one of them being a part of me. And my first son is my mind. He's my brain. His brain, oh my gosh, the things that he create with his brain. And my second son, he's my spirit. Every spiritual room I went in, he was like, I want that, I want that, I want that. And he's a Taurus too, so he's like the male version of me. And my third son, he's my heart. He's an Aries, and he has the heart of gold. Oh my gosh. He's a dear, dear friend. He would ride and die with you. But he's also his fire. You don't play with that. Don't play with it. He has a teenage daughter, and the boys on the street will not even date her. That's like, do you know who her father is? Don't talk to her. Look at her and keep going. So the value of the beauty of raising three sons and how they turned out to be such great men, each one of them.
Mm.
I don't want for nothing. They have a tracker on me and everything, you know. And I'm so proud to say that, a lot of women can't say that. I had three sons and they are priests, protectors, and providers.
Wow.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
So for them to hold space for me when I needed to, when I asked them to, because they know they saw the crazy, like I said, they saw the craziness in me and all that. And they should say, Mom, please don't go there. Whatever we got to do, just tell us, don't go there. We'll talk about it. They've always been that type of sons. So for them holding space for me when I was going through my rites of passage, it was so beautiful, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then I had a two-family house, and their mates used to stay in the house, and I used to work with them to turn our home into a moonlight. So when the women in the house get on their cycle, they would be served. They didn't have to do anything. And my one of my sons, him and his mates used to always have arguments. And I used to say to him, "What week is she? What's her season this week?" And he was like, "Ma, it's the fall season." I'm like, "What you supposed to do?" He said, "I'm supposed to hold her, not fuss with her." And finally he got it.
Yes.
But it was rough for a while. And when I hear them in the they was living in the basement, I hear them, I was like, first I call him, I'm like, Kenny, what week is it this week? And he's like, "Oh, Ma." He said, but I need this and I need that. You need something. You can't get it from her this week
Yeah.
or next week. You got to get it somewhere else. So this helped them to deepen their relationship, and be mindful. And when is the best week to talk to her? And when is the best week to just hold space for her? So I seen it, and all three of my daughter-in-laws are medicine women. And now my grandbabies, and when I get down to my grandbabies, we used to have conversations in the house when my grandkids went through puberty, right? And I have a set of twin, girl and boy twins. So when we talked about the cycles and everything, and my grandson was there too. He said, "Grandma, if Milani have a cycle at 13, when do it stop?" I'm like, "When she's in her 40s." He said, "No, 40 years, she'll bleed to death." I'm like, "No, she won't. We are that powerful." So having these conversations, I mean, and he would take his friends and he would go to Target to get the pads. He's like, "I'm getting these pads, y'all." Da, da, da. He'd be like making announcements, so happy to serve. So that's a cycle breaking right there,
Yes.
you know? And then talking to my 8-year-old grandbabies, they 8 now. One of them was talking about the body and the puberty, and she was like, "Grandma, looking at mommy and her grandma," she said, these breasts gonna give me problems because she's tiny, tiny." And she said, I love these conversations, the awareness. I couldn't talk about my body
Yes.
with my grandma. She had too much trauma.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about my body. I wanted to talk about sex. I wanted to talk about my body. But my grandmother has so much trauma that she would get so angry and cut me short and said, "Never use those words in my house."
Right.
So I had to snuff it and zip it.
It's so interesting hearing you say this, Mama Moot, because it's coming to mind how much trauma, and just like you saying, you read Louise Hay's work, back in the
Yeah.
day, but how much trauma is held in the body and how
Yes.
much trauma, our mothers and grandmothers and, go all back through the lineage was held and a lot passed on, plus then tap on how much we accumulate through our own life experience, right? But if we aren't taught to have these conversations, like these conversations you're having with your children, your grandchildren, if we aren't taught to be in right relationship with ourselves and not have shame about it, it's really interesting the impact, the implication,
Yes.
how much would not just heal, but would change, I think, a lot of the ways young people maybe carry themselves and respect and honor their own bodies, let alone other people's. And it just seems so important, what you're saying, even beyond
Yeah,
just breaking
that's why,
cycles.
I'm a visionary, and I'm always, I've just learned recently that through the Mayan calendar
Hmm.
that I'm a white solar wizard. And that means that I dream a lot. Have dreams and visions, and I'm already in those visions. And I see my charge is to stop the Me Too movement
Mm,
through awareness and conversations in the homes.
yeah.
Because even now, with my grandson, 17, wanting to date, and what the world have shown them, and social media and everything has shown them what sexuality is and what it's not,
Right.
you know? And my conversation with them in the home, they don't hear it outside with their friends. I told them, I said, whenever you at 17, I'm thinking about my age when I was 17 to 21, your sexual energy is so strong,
Yeah.
so strong. And even before then, younger, your sexual energy, the energy is so powerful and so strong until you feel like you got to do something with it.
Right.
And when somebody brings that closeness to you, you think that's love,
Mm,
you know? Because that energy is so strong. And when we have these conversations in a home and we are taught, I studied the Tao of sexuality, and we're taught that men, they die every time they release,
mm,
you know? And if they're taught to hold it in and nurture it from the end, we are taught, we need to be taught the spiritual anatomy,
yeah.
that part. We know about the physical anatomy, yes, but the spiritual anatomy, we know how to channel that energy into creative energy. So my conversation with my teenage grandchildren is when somebody approach you in that to connect with you physically, you got to think about, what am I about to create?
Right.
This is creative energy. And how many households have this conversation? I
Right.
know mine didn't growing up.
No.
So it's an honor to bring this awareness to every household now, and planting a seed of curiosity for this to grow. Because this is the only way we'll stop the generational pain.
Well, you've mentioned a little bit, you kind of mentioned it earlier, your ebooks. So I do want to
Yeah.
ask you about that because, and I want to talk about the different ways people can work with you. But one of the ways you're sharing your work is through the ebooks. So could you tell us a little bit about those and where people can get them?
Yes, the ebook is it's about turning your home into a moon lodge, and it's coming out in a book form. And it's a workbook.
Mm,
We put everything in there, and now it's being upgraded, where it's really going to make it easier for parents to just go and use it. And it has in there the different sections. Red is for birthing women, pink is for the young girls just coming into their cycle, or for women just coming to this awareness and want to celebrate themselves.
yes.
And purple is for menopause. And because it's not really the end of life, it's the beginning, a new way of listening to yourself and really leaning into what you want to experience.
Yeah.
And then the blue is for the men in our lives that can hold space for us, but they also, each one have to know in the book, being taught and guided to take care of yourself first from full cup so you can share with others. So the men they can see that how caring for themselves is so necessary. When I talk to my bonus daughters, my daughter-in-laws, they talk about how they see my sons take care of themselves.
Yeah.
They learn that I was able to model that for them, and they big into taking their baths, and my daughter-in-law said, well, they put more cocoa butter on themselves than they do on me. So they already into that for themselves first,
Yes.
and then they can share with you and teach you.
Yeah.
So this book is laid out. It's laid out how everybody can take care of themselves, and then listen to the voice of the wife, of the woman of the house. When mommy's happy, everybody's happy. But when mommy's not happy,
Yeah.
the whole house is in trouble.
Mm,
So this is a way that we honor the feminine aspect of in all of us. And now, with everything happening in the world, we all are being called to soften and nurture ourselves more than ever before.
yes.
So yes, you can get an ebook form, or you can get it in book form, but please get it.
Okay.
Get it
And what
into
is
your
the name
home.
of the book? Do you have a
Turning your home into a moon lodge.
turning your home into a moon lodge? Okay.
When you think about a moon lodge, you think about your great great grandmother's home, where everything is plant based, and the aroma and the essence is from the flowers and from the earth, and and it's soft and it's cozy. And everything you need is in the house. Before we had doctors and all of these degrees, we had the shamans, we had the medicine women,
Yeah.
you know? I was telling an elder that the other day, and she's like, "Where are they now?" I said, "We are they.
Mm.
We are the shamans. We are the medicine women. We are the priests. We are the protectors. We are the providers." So we have to really go inside and fill our cups because we need it more than ever. We have to stay out of the hospitals, you know? My
Well,
other births, I don't know. I was young, but I knew to labor at home. I only went there in time to deliver.
yeah.
We got to go back to that.
Well, you do teach a lot about this too, and we didn't really get into it. You spoke a little bit about doing womb work, but what are the different modalities that you're teaching now that you're helping people learn? I know you teach Reiki classes, but you also refer to yourself as a womb Reiki master. So,
Yes,
yeah, what
yes.
can how can they work with you?
Oh, Reiki, Reiki, Reiki. Reiki will expand whatever your desires are. And for me, when I became a Reiki student back in 2017 and then the Reiki Master in 2019, I was able to write all of this out. You talk about downloads earlier, they got double downloaded.
Yes.
And at the time, it just came out of me. I was like, I used to, feel away because I didn't finish college, and I was like, I can't write and this and that, the other. All of that went out the window.
Yeah.
Like they said, Reiki would take and expand the light in you, and all of those doubts and can't do's, they just don't matter anymore.
Yeah.
I was able to, really deep dive into what I want to offer, and I really want to offer everyone the chance to connect with themselves. And we do that in several different ways. On Tuesday nights, we give a harder breathing class. And the harder is the point below your navel. It's the center of your core. It's in
Mm.
your womb.
Yes.
It's in your womb. And just by breathing into that space, you can just soften and release all of those trauma memories that live there. Open the space for more love.
That sounds so good. So is the Hatha breathing class, is that online or do we have to be
It's yes,
okay?
it's on Zoom.
Okay.
It's on Zoom. You could just go to the website and register and tap in every Tuesday at 9 p.m. EST.
Mm,
And that is I offer that because that could be done by any member of the family, not only women but men too.
right.
That space is within all of us. And they have a whole nother story about what lives in their space. And they may not have a womb, but that's the center point of the core where we hold everything in, male, female, it doesn't matter,
Yeah.
and we can unpack it and change the stories and get release and really put more joy there, more creativity there, more ideas that we can live with that will bring us more joy.
Yes.
So I offer that. I offer womb womb consultation. Like I said, I sit down with couples, and I had some beautiful testimonies too, where the couples come on, and the wife be talking about what she be going through, and helping the husband understand what weeks to work with her and what weeks you can't you know,
Yeah.
and just letting him learn how to know her cycles. I'm like, post it up. Every time you have a difficulty, ask her, know her cycle. What week is she in? What season? If she's in her fall week,
Yeah.
don't ask for more than she can give. Listen. If she's in her winter week, serve her. When she's in her spring and summer, you can go wherever because she'd be able to handle it. She's stronger then.
Right.
But give us at least a few days out of the fall and winter week to be nurtured or be by ourselves.
Yeah.
I hear so many of my friends say, I'm like, what did you do for Mother's Day? It's like my time. I just wanted time. They don't want to go out. Just give me some time alone
Yeah.
with myself. Don't ask me for nothing today. How about that?
Yes.
And my raising my kids, when I close the door, they know not to knock. That was my time, and I used to love it. I'm an introvert, extrovert. So if I go inside, you can get more of me outside.
It's
So
just
that's what
amazing
I
to
did.
think of how hard it is for people, women, a lot of times to say what they need. I mean, let alone
Yes,
recognize it for ourselves, but then to even ask for it or to say out loud and not feel guilt or not feel shame. Like, so yeah, it's
yes,
really, really powerful. Everything that I'm sure light bulbs are going off for all the people listening. Um, but yeah, I mean, this is really, really powerful. And I can't wait to read your book, Turning Your Home into a Moon Lodge, because again, even what you shared in the book that Mama Ifetayo put together that all of us got to contribute to, it made me so curious. And so I'm so thankful that you did take the time to come and expand on what your work is about and all that you do. But before we wrap up, because I know, I look how fast the time goes, could you tell everyone the website, the best way to connect with you?
sure. You can connect with me. My website is www.cycle Breaking, Breakin, Wombkeepers, WOMBKEEPERS.com. Cycle Breaking Wombkeepers. We all are that. If you listen to my voice and you're getting curious and excited about this information, you are a cycle breaker.
Yes.
It's one in every family, at least one.
Yeah.
You get lucky if you get two. But it's one in every family that looks through the family line and say, no, I don't want to do it like that. I'm I'm not doing it like that. And I even go further. I'm like, I want to do everything I need to do this lifetime because I don't want to come back here and do this like this
Yes.
again. And I'm not coming back here doing like this again. So let me address everything I can on my own so I can raise my frequency and raise my vibration. And if I have to come back and be on a higher level, but
Yeah.
not like this.
That is so funny. That's what I always say. I don't want to repeat it. I want to learn the lesson this time. Just,
Yes.
deal with what is true and let's keep it moving. But I have to say,
Yes.
Mama Moot, it was so incredible to hear your story and hear so, so much about your work. And for everyone listening again, the website is cyclebreakingwombkeepers.com. I'm going to put the link in the show description, but I'm also going to put the link to connect with you on Instagram. And
Thank you.
don't forget to look out for the print version of Turning Your Home into a Moon Lodge. So, yes, and
Yes.
once the print's available, please send the link to me so I can update the the description with the link to
Thank
get
you.
the. Yes,
Thank
yes.
you so much.
Thank
Thank
you, my
you.
love. And thank
Thank you.
everyone for listening and joining us today. And we will see you all very soon.
Thank you. Enjoy.
Okay, beautiful alchemists, thank you again for joining me here on Reiki Radio and to our wonderful guest today, Mama Mut Ra-t, who is also a contributor to Reiki Heart and Soul, Many Stories, One Bright Light. The link for this book, the anthology that was put together by Ifetayo White, the link is down in the show description, but you can also learn more about Mama Moot in her work going to her website, cyclebreakingwombkeepers.com. The link is down in the show description. Don't forget that she has her book, Turning Your Home into a Moon Lodge, that is available as an ebook now. It will be a physical book sometime this summer. Keep an eye out for that. But the links to connect with her are down in the show description. So I hope that you learned in today's conversation. And if there's someone in your life that you know would benefit from what was shared today, be sure to share Reiki Radio with them. I really, really do hope that more of these episodes and the work are shared with anyone that would gain support from these conversations. So thank you for sharing. Thank you so much for being here. And if you want to know more about me and my work, be sure to go to theenergeticalchemist.com. The link is down in the show description as well. And right now, just go and download the Energetic Alchemist app. So you can do it from the Apple App Store or Google Play if you have an Android. Type in The Energetic Alchemist, download the app, create a free account, or you can activate membership. Either way, there's a lot of free content there for you to support you on your journey as well. All right, my loves, I will see you soon. And remember to always journey in love. Bye for now.